With the world watching this case, Egyptian security forces were on heightened alert. The verdict stunned those packed into the courtroom. The judge found the Al Jazeera 3, as they're known, guilty of delivering false news broadcasts, guilty of helping the Muslim Brotherhood, the Islamic movement now banned in Egypt, as a terrorist group. The evidence presented in this long court case was weak at best, failing to show any clear link between the journalists and the Muslim Brotherhood. Tonight, anger from Fahmi's family. They say Canada should have done more to secure his release.
Someone else in Ottawa should, the Prime Minister should have taken action. I don't know why they're trying to appease the Egyptian government too much. Why are they being so careful?
The outcome of this case caused outrage around the world. John Kerry called the verdict chilling and draconian. Canada's reaction was more muted, releasing a statement expressing disappointment. The Foreign Affairs Minister wasn't available for comment. Instead, it was up to the Prime Minister's parliamentary secretary to react.
All right, what's the explanation for the way Ottawa is handling this issue? Evan Solomon has been working that angle for us today. He's in Ottawa tonight. What are you hearing?
It's been a muted and puzzling and uncharacteristic response from the government to this. Sources inside Foreign Affairs say so they're trying what they call a low-key strategy of engagement versus what they call grandstanding by other nations, pointing out that John Baird behind the scenes has talked to his Egyptian counterpart about this very case, and they're working the back channels. But as you saw in public, the message has been nothing short of confusion. Opposition has said the government needs to have a stronger voice, and they should be less concerned with the response of a new Egyptian government and more concerned with the rights of a Canadian citizen.
And that's the story about Egyptian journalists. International journalists, Egyptian story. I'm Darin Howard.
And I'm Robert Nisbet.
You're tuned into Video Radio in segment 2 as we take a look at some world issues and exactly what's not being covered in lamestream media.
Yeah, there's still a story going on in Ukraine that you may or may not be aware of.
Yes, there's major issues happening in the Ukraine right now. We were just talking about the fact in our pre-production meeting that Russia is not stepping in with military solutions, but they do have an interesting sanction.
They have an economic answer.
Check this out.
Russia has turned off the tap for Ukraine, halting gas supplies. The move comes as a payment deadline passed and negotiators failed to reach a deal on gas prices. There are also unpaid bills amid continued fighting in eastern Ukraine. Ukraine's prime minister denounced the move, saying the action is part of a plan that started with Russia's annexation of Crimea. A spokesman for Russia's Gazprom says Ukraine will have to pay in advance for any future deliveries. The head of Naftogaz, Ukraine's state gas company, says Ukraine can manage without Russian gas until December. But the disruption raises larger questions for Europe. The pipeline that runs through Ukraine supplies other countries. Gazprom has warned European officials of what it called a possible disruption in the gas transit. Europe's energy commissioner says there must be further negotiations with Ukraine and Russia. He added that there are measures to make sure Europe has adequate supplies for the winter. One analyst says there are unlikely to be short-term gas supply problems in Europe, but there could be problems for winter if a deal isn't reached quickly. Matt Friedman, Associated Press.
I like doing this on the street.
I do.
It's always interesting on the street. We meet very interesting people, and during the little break there, we have people who want to get on camera. We're going to have to do that more too, because that's really cool. Okay, Russia shuts the gas off.
Or at least they're threatening to, because, you know, Ukraine hasn't paid their bill.
Yeah.
However, they may be able to, because they've just signed that deal with the Eurozone, the one that, created the whole mess in Ukraine in the first place when Yushchenko decided not to sign with Europe.
This is blowing me away because, we have all this hype about what was going on in the Ukraine. Major media was there. And then they signed the deal with the Euro that they didn't want to do in the first place. And then this just glazed over.
Well, first they had to have the coup, and then they had to have the democratic election when they elected the new president of Ukraine, Mr. Poroshenko, the Chocolate King.
I really enjoyed that one. Story that we're following right now about getting shut off. Detroit right now is threatening to shut off water Detroit is sitting on the world's, North America's 5th largest freshwater supply, and is going to shut off the water to people who are impoverished and totally destroyed by the world economy. And of course, that's fascism and kind of sick and twisted. Okay. The Ukraine, of course, wants stabilization.
Yeah, and at least the new president is promising to honor the ceasefire that's been going on in Ukraine, so they stop killing their own citizens, like every democracy should not do.
He said president promises. Let's check this out.
Ukraine's capital, Kyiv, is still filled with barricades, tents, and quite radical protesters. People are mostly unhappy with the country's new president, whom they elected last month.
We are still the main ones to put pressure on our parliament, president and government.
Protesters want early parliamentary elections, provided that the lustration of all government branches on all levels is done.
Young people that have never been in this system have to come to govern. All talks about lack of personnel are pouring in. We just need a horizontal governmental system, not the vertical one.
But the ongoing unrest in eastern Ukraine remains the main topic of discussion amid the government crackdown on pro-Russian protesters. Some strongly condemning the crackdown, which Kyiv labels as the anti-terrorist operation.
How many more people should die before all to understand that it should be stopped? Enough blood.
Others believe that the crackdown must be intensified to bring tranquility back to the eastern regions. Eastern Ukraine has been the scene of deadly clashes between government forces and pro-Russian protesters for the past several months, as the demonstrators have maintained their positions in defiance of the government crackdown. Ukrainians have no illusions left that the country is technically at war. 2 months on since the start of the operation against pro-Russian protests, the death toll has reached at least 270 people, including 2 kids. Now protesters are urging authorities to prevent the ongoing conflict from protraction for years.
So I got confused there for a second. I forgot we were coming on to stabilization because there's so much information coming out of the Ukraine right now.
Yeah, now Russia's being told to help with the disarmament of the rebels in the eastern part of the country, or otherwise they may face more economic sanctions.
So disarming rebels, and let's take a look at the Euro deal that kind of got put through. Check this out.
Secretary of State John Kerry has said that Russia must urge Ukraine separatists to disarm in hours. The request came as Kerry spoke to delegates in Paris again, reiterating the threat of sanctions if Moscow did not encourage the separatists to be part of a legitimate process. Russia and Ukraine have been in a tense standoff since March, when Russia annexed the previously Ukrainian peninsula of Crimea and massed troops along other parts of its border with Ukraine.
Getting to this point has cost hundreds of lives and severely strained diplomatic ties. It has brought Ukraine to the brink of civil war. President Poroshenko said his country had paid the highest possible price to make her dreams come true.
Of course, all of us would have wished to sign up agreement under different, more comfortable circumstances. On the other hand, the external aggression faced by Ukraine gives another strong reason for this crucial step. By signing this agreement, Ukraine takes enormous commitment in terms of reform.
This treaty is not without cost. Ukraine now benefits from having access to the European market, but it must make significant reforms to comply with EU regulations. Full EU membership is still a long way off. And Russia continues to express its anger, the Kremlin predicting grave consequences if Russia's economy suffers as a result. In Moscow, President Putin said the Kiev administration had created a rift between the Ukrainian people.
Anti-constitutional coup in Kiev and attempts to artificially impose a choice between Europe and Russia on the Ukrainian people have pushed society towards a split and painful confrontation.
The United Nations estimates more than 100,000 people have fled from eastern Ukraine into Russia this year, fearful of both the conflict and perhaps the future. An army ceasefire due to expire later on Friday may be extended. though in reality it has been almost meaningless. But there have been positive signals too. In the early hours of Friday morning, armed separatists in the eastern city of Donetsk released a 4-man team from the international monitoring group, the OSCE. But 4 other OSCE members and dozens of other hostages still remain in captivity. Paul Brennan, Al Jazeera, Donetsk.
So this is why I like covering these stories like this.
But we got to make our rounds around the world because a lot of this stuff gets dropped into all the fluff that's on the mainstream media.
Yes, while they're covering stories about lost dogs and soccer games that are enjoyed by a scant few, we're going to have the story about the Ukraine, and we're going to continue following it because the people there are starting to rise up with logic and information.
I'm Robert Nisbet.
I'm Darin Howard. And coming up next, we're going to be talking about Thailand,
Libya,
and Twitter, and Syria, or Spain, and Syria, and British Columbia.
And other hot spots around the world.
And we're going to be way better prepared than we just were.
Or not.
Or not. This is Video Radio. Thanks for tuning in. Stay tuned. Just one more quick segment to go.
Aidez-moi. 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 Aidez-moi.
When this woman in a New York waiting room collapses in 2008, hospital staff ignore her for an agonizing 45 minutes. When someone finally comes to her aid, it's too late.
Hi there, I'm Darin Howard. This is a quick note for you, for everybody who's hanging out right here in the Okanagan, and people hanging around on the internet. We need your help. We're launching a new channel right here at Radio Free Canada, and we're going to be doing things in a different way. And we're looking for contributors, people to write editorials, blogs, and to start talking about what major media is not talking about. We also need resources, and we need some technical experts, people to help out with the editing and some of the assembly that's occurred when we're putting together media like this. You could be our person. We need everybody. If you have the ability to surf the net and take some notes, or the ability to add music, acting, drama, all kinds of artwork, if you have any skill whatsoever, chances are we have something for you to do. I want you to contact me, Darin Howard, or of course our beloved partner, Robert Nisbet, who has so much time to get online and to address all of our concerns. I'm saying that because Robert's working so hard. But get a hold of us on our Facebook or YouTube group and tell us, what can you bring here? Maybe it's just a video add-in, maybe it's a chance to go onto Twitter or onto Skype and discuss what your opinion is. It's up to you. You have the skills and the talent and the ability to support us, and we need you. So make sure you check it out. And the brand new format is on the way.